All right, everybody, we're keeping on going with understanding complex sentences. This no writing practice should have seemed relatively easy to you. I know we only had 4 days in school and 8 topics. It can seem really overwhelming, but if you've made it to this point, you are coasting right along. So we're sitting at about 75%. We're going to go ahead and click on begin for correcting SWABI fragments. So we're going to hit the practice and we're going to read the instructions. Fix any punctuation or capitalization errors below. Submit answer or click submit answer if there are none. So remember, we're focusing on those SWABIs and we're asking ourselves first and foremost, where is the SWABI in our sentence? If it's at the beginning, you should know that you're going to need a comma at the end of the dependent clause. If you find your SWABI in the middle, you should know that you don't need a comma before the SWABI in your sentence. So for this one, it says Ryan Howard's dog hid under the porch when she saw me pull up in the driveway. I know when is my SWABI. So because it comes in the middle of the sentence, I don't need to add a comma, and this sentence is actually grammatically correct as is. So I'm going to hit submit answer. I'm going to come over here to the next one, make sure I'm reading the instructions so I know what I'm doing. They're the same. Lucas Sinclair hopes he will have a fun time Lucas Sinclair hopes he will have time to go for a run after he finishes rehearsal. I need to ask myself, where is my SWABI in this sentence? Is it at the beginning? It's not. It's actually in the middle of my sentence. And you know when the SWABIs show up in the middle, you don't need a comma before them. You only need a comma for a SWABI if it shows up at the beginning of the sentence. So I can take this comma and throw it out and click submit answer. Obi-Wan Kenobi wore his brand new striped rain boots because it was supposed to rain. Obi-Wan Kenobi is not a SWABI. Because is my SWABI, and because it comes in the middle of my sentence, I don't need a comma before it. I'm going to submit my answer as is. Zazu was a heavy Facebook user before most of his friends had ever even heard of the site. Well, this sentence is all kinds of weird. This is the first time that I've seen in this no writing practice, no writing break my sentences into 2 sections. If you haven't seen it in 2 sentences before, you need to make sure that it is correct. And if it's not correct, you need to make it look like the rest of the sentences have been looking. So Zazu was a very heavy Facebook user. That's a complete sentence. I'm going to move to the next sentence. Before most of his friends had even heard of the site, this isn't a complete sentence. Most of his friends had even heard of the site is a complete sentence, but we don't have just most of his friends had even heard of the site. We have this word before. It is a subordinating conjunction, and it should signify to you that we're waiting on more information. Well, when we get to the end of this, we don't have any more information, so we need to look at what's in front of it, and we see a period. If I take this period out and I make this word before lowercase, I have Zazu was a very heavy Facebook user before most of his friends had even heard of the site. Well, I know right now that I'm not waiting on any more information because I know that before most of his friends had ever even heard of the site, Zazu was a heavy Facebook user. And I know that because it comes in the beginning. So make sure that if you see it in 2 sentences, you really look at it because you might think, oh, this looks like a whole lot of work. I don't want to remove a period and change the capitalization of a letter in a sentence. That's too much. Just think about it the way that we've been doing the rest of them and make it look like the rest of them and then work through it, okay? So just make sure it's correct. You guys know we don't have 2 sentences in these sections. We've worked through them before. So you just need to make it look like the other ones. Take the period out and lowercase the word that came after the period and just make sure it checks out. Just make sure it's correct. My SWABI's not at the beginning. It's in the middle. I know when my SWABI comes in the middle, I don't need a comma before it. I should be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and return to Pathway really quickly, and you'll notice I'm at 88%. This means I'm essentially done with my no red ink, and I have mastered each of these topics. I just haven't tested out of these 3 topics. I tested out of the top 3 because I did this checkpoint, but I've yet to do the checkpoint for these 3 right here, which is punctuating SWABIs. I'm not going to go through the checkpoint with you guys because it is going to just be a compilation of these 3 topics. So if you get stuck on one of these questions in the punctuating SWABIs checkpoint, you need to ask yourself, what is this question asking me? And then you need to go back and watch the tutorials for whichever section you feel like that question would fall under. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, you get stuck on anything, let me know. But once you finish that checkpoint, you're done with your no writing for the week.